Hi, and welcome to a special episode of the J-Karp Show. And today, for those of you that haven't heard, former head coach at Penn State for 46 years, Joe Paterno has passed away at the age of 85, following complications of lung cancer. His family released a statement Sunday morning to announce his death. Quote, "His loss leaves a void in our lives that will never be filled. He died as he lived. He fought hard until the end and stayed positive, thought only of others, and constantly reminded everyone of how blessed his life had been." Born on December 21st, 1926, Paterno grew up in Brooklyn. And serving in the Army, he played quarterback and cornerback at Brown University. He graduated in 1950 and immediately jumped into coaching. He became an assistant at Penn State under his college coach, Rip Engel. When Engel retired after the '65 season, Paterno took over. His ambitions were far-reaching, but he never believed he had to leave this happy valley to achieve them. He was a man devoted to his family, his university, his players, and his community. For 46 seasons, Paterno was the beginning and end of Nittany Lions football. When he left Beaver Stadium for the final time, he had amassed 409 career victories, more than any coach in the history of the game. He won his first national title in '83 and then another in '87. Year after year, decade after decade, players left bound for the NFL. He was an innovator with influence, a determined coach with unmatched stamina. Despite his longevity and towering presence on campus, Paterno could not outlast a child sex abuse scandal that threatened to destroy the goodwill he'd built in State College, Pennsylvania. His longtime assistant coach, Jerry Sandusky, was indicted for alleged sexual molestation of young boys. The head coach had testified before a state grand jury about a 2002 allegation against Sandusky that was passed on to him by then graduate assistant Mike McCleary. While Paterno was never a target of the criminal investigation, his lack of further action — he waited a day to relay McCleary's allegation that he'd seen Sandusky in the shower with a young boy to university officials — spurred the calls for his firing. In a statement that off guard, Paterno announced he was retiring effective at the end of the year. At the time, Paterno said he was devastated and that the board should not spend a single minute discussing my status. And that, hang on, it's a little rough reading this. And had more important matters to address. Well, like usual, they didn't listen. "This is a tragedy," Paterno said. "It was one of the great stars of my life. With the benefit of hindsight, I wish I'd done more." Later that night, Mark Gambley fired Paterno. Students stood that night on his front lawn cheering, "We are Penn State," showing their support for the longtime coach. What they did not know, what no one knew, was that Paterno would soon be facing a bigger fight, the one for his life against lung cancer. Less than 2 weeks after he was dismissed, his family made public his illness. He began to appear frail. His body was weakened by the chemo, and his voice was reduced to a whisper. The Washington Post recently interviewed Paterno, and he sat in a wheelchair at the kitchen table with his family, and he wore a wig. He used a moment to defend himself against allegations that he didn't do enough to keep Sandusky, an alleged sexual predator, away from young boys. Well, yet last night, before the false reports of his death came in, the family opted to take him off a ventilator. And then he eventually, moments later, passed away. Now, before I state my opinion on what I thought about Joe Paterno, I will read comments sent in to me. Believe it or not, some of these are offensive, so just be careful. These are not my opinions. First one is from Willie L. Quote, "Look at the voids allowed to happen in so many young people who are molested. Glad he's gone. Too bad he was never born." From Debbie C. "I agree." This is not agreeing to his statement, but this is agreeing to somebody else's statement. "I agree. He died broken-hearted." This person believes he died broken-hearted. "And the people have to remember that he was not accused of rape, and he did report it. The ones that did nothing after are the guilty ones that let it continue. Rest in peace, Joe. From Carlos G. Quote, may Joe Paterno burn in hell with all the cowards and child molesters. Senile fool. Penn State football never was, and never will be amazing. Let's go Fresno State football. From Linda G. Joe was a great coach, and he did what he was supposed to do about reporting the abuse. They dropped the ball. He didn't. Being fired from his job more than likely broke his heart. Now he's in God's hands and can rest in peace. The pedophile, Jerry Sandusky, can burn in hell. We will miss you, Joe. Okay, well, some of those were very offensive, and I had a lot of other offensive comments that people sent in I would not read. So now here's my opinion on Joe Paterno. And this is to the haters. Okay, what if this was one of your family members? And why would you as people say awful things that you are saying? The man is dead. And at the end of the day, someone has lost a father, a husband, and a grandfather. The thing is, at the end of the day, the dead cannot hear you. It's the family that hurts from your comments. No one else. To the Paterno family, I am sorry for your loss. But at least he's not suffering anymore. Joe Paterno was a wonderful man, and he lived and bled Penn State. It was because of him the school went from just another school of football to a football powerhouse. For 61 of his 85 years of life, he was a Nittany Lion. And within 2 months, all the hard work he did for the school, all of his millions of donations, the library, everything, was tainted. Tainted by Jerry Sandusky and his rape of young boys, and tainted by the media. The media decimated Joe Pa's reputation by treating him like a common criminal. He reported it. The people whom he reported it to did nothing. Nonetheless, in my opinion, they should not have fired him. He was such a legendary coach and deserved to go out the way he went in. The only thing sports fans like better than knocking down our heroes is picking them back up. But that's not going to happen here. For Paterno to die with the shame of this awful child sex abuse scandal still draped over him will be another thick layer of sadness on top of this story that is already a mile deep. Personally, I think football is what kept him going. When this scandal came about, he just seemed to lose the will to live. And forget the diagnosis of lung cancer. Forget all the other health issues he had, broken pelvises. I think the real cause of Joe Pa's death, a broken heart. Thank you for listening to the J-Karp Show, and rest in peace, Joe Paterno.